Federalist 70, Part 5. We'll start at paragraph 15. But before I go there, let me show you what I have on the screen. This is just to give you a feel of what it meant to communicate back then during the Revolutionary era. Now, Constitution would go into effect as soon as 9 states ratified it. The 9th state to ratify was New Hampshire, which ratified on June 21st, 1788. And New York is right next to New Hampshire, and Hamilton badly wanted to hear from New Hampshire. And as soon as they ratified the Constitution, he actually went as far as giving money out of his own pocket to some fast riders to get the news from New Hampshire to New Jersey. That took almost 3 days. You look at the map and look at how small the distance is, and this is on a fast horse, fast riders. So keep in mind that the distance and the communication, the speed of communication, what it was like back then. So that should give you a feel of being able to put yourself back at that time. And maybe as you read these Federalists, it kind of gives you a better feel of the time and the place that we are discussing here. Paragraph 18. It is evident from these considerations that the plurality of the executive tends to deprive the people of the 2 greatest securities they can have for the faithful exercise of any delegated power. First, the restraints of public opinion, which lose their efficacy as well on account of the division of the censure attendant on bad measures among a number, as on account of uncertainty on whom it ought to fall. And secondly, the opportunity of discovering with facility and clearness the misconduct of the person they trust in order either to their removal from office or their actual punishment in cases which admit of it. Remember, we were talking about Hamilton's paper, this paper that is talking about it's best to have one person as president rather than 2 people presiding over the executive branch, or a person with a council, a group of people doing that. Hamilton says it's always good to have that one person up there. This way things can be decided and acted upon quicker, and also if there's a mistake, you know who to blame. In England, the king is a perpetual magistrate, and it is a maxim which has obtained for the sake of the public peace that he is unaccountable for his administration and his person sacred. Nothing, therefore, can be wiser in that kingdom than to annex to the king a constitutional council who may be responsible to the nation for the advice they give. Without this, there would be no responsibility whatever in the executive department, an idea inadmissible in a free government. But even there, the king is not bound by the resolutions of his council, though they are answerable for the advice they give. He is the absolute master of his own conduct in the exercise of his office, and may observe or disregard the counsel given to him at his sole discretion. Now, remember in the past Federalists, we said that Hamilton constantly compares the new Constitution that is being looked at with the state constitutions as well as the system of government in Britain. Now, when it comes to kings and his authority and stuff, we already said that he exaggerates just a little bit when he wants to say the king pretty much runs the show, or he can do a lot. He just says he's the master. He can do anything without anybody stopping him. Where we know after the Glorious Revolution in Britain, 1688, 1689, gradually the parliament became stronger and the king weaker, relatively speaking. So he exaggerates a little bit to kind of sell his argument. The next paragraph, but in a republic where every magistrate ought to be personally responsible for his behavior in office, the reason which in the British Constitution dictates the propriety of a council not only ceases to apply, but turns against the institution. In the monarchy of Great Britain, it furnishes a substitute for the prohibited responsibility of the chief magistrate, which serves in some degree as a hostage to the national justice for his good behavior. In the American Republic, it would serve to destroy or would greatly diminish the intended and necessary responsibility of the chief magistrate himself. So in Britain, according to Hamilton, where the king has absolute power, then a council is good to make recommendations, to stop him from doing something crazy, to at least give him some advice. But he says in a republic like ours, where people elect their representatives and all these things, it's best for the president to be solo, to run the show by himself, because of dispatch. You want things to get done fast and properly, and also when something doesn't go right, you know who the responsible party is. The idea of a council to the executive, which has so generally obtained in the state constitutions, has been derived from that maxim of Republican jealousy, which considers power as safer in the hands of a number of men than of a single man. So, Republican ideology that distrusts power being in the hands of one person. It's better to be in the hands of many. If the maxim should be admitted to be applicable to this case, I should contend that the advantage on that side would not counterbalance the numerous disadvantage on the opposite side. But I do not think the rule at all applicable to the executive power. I clearly concur in the opinion in this particular with a writer whom the celebrated Junius pronounces to be deep, solid, and ingenious, that the executive power is more easily confined when it is one. So he quotes this person that was writing articles against the king and the court. His name was Junius, and Junius himself quotes another author named Delorme, who lived in late 1700s and had written a book about the laws of England and the system of England. And he says one of the things that this great author Delorme writes is that it's better for the power of the executive be in the hands of one person, that it is far more safe there should be a single object for jealousy and watchfulness of the people, and in a word, that all multiplications of the executive is rather dangerous than friendly to liberty. So you always have to, in the back of your mind when you're reading these, you have to always think the separation of power, the division of power, different branches, and as the Constitution was also being written, the minute they found out that small states are going to have 2 senators equal to the larger states, then they decided to give more power to the president. So you have to remember that this thing was shaped in a fluid way. Nobody was going to give this much power to the president, but the minute small states became strongly represented in the national government, then they decided to change at least give the president a little bit more power to be able to check a qualified veto of the legislature. So I think what we need to do is finish this Federalist in part 6.